Hello everyone. Today we are doing lesson 6 and this is Lillian Osborne, Math 10C, Relations and Functions Unit. So Math 10C, Relations and Functions. So we're talking about lesson 6, which is the slope-intercept form of a line. The slope-intercept form of a line is one you're going to see a lot, and it's a form of the equation for a line that we can write that's very, very useful. And it's written in the form y equals mx plus b, where m, which we talked about last lesson, is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. So what we mean by y-intercept, for those of you who need a refresher, is this is our graph and this is our line. The y-intercept is the point where it crosses the y-axis. So if you look there, that's where x equals 0. So if we write our equation in this form, y equals mx plus b, we can have some information available to us right away: the slope, m, and b, the y-intercept, so the point where it crosses that y-axis. So, writing an equation of a linear function, given its slope and its y-intercept. So, if you're given, so you don't have a graph drawn for you, and you want to write the equation of the line, but you're given the slope and the y-intercept, you can write the equation for that line. And it's just a matter of substituting into that form. So we have y is equal to mx plus b. We're given the slope is 3/5 and the y-intercept is -4. So we just substitute in. So this will be y is equal to 3/5 x and minus 4. Now, yes, it says plus b, but it's plus -4, so we would just write that as -4, okay? So this is just a very simple form of substitution. So here we have the graph of a linear function has a slope of -7/3 and the y-intercept of 5. We want to write the equation, so remember it's y is equal to mx plus b, so y is equal to -7/3 x plus 5. So all we did is we took those two pieces of information and we substitute them in, because slope is m and y-intercept is b. Okay? Now, if we're graphing these, so we're graphing a linear function with that equation, and unfortunately my graphs are on the next page. Taking a look at these, I'm going to scoot over to the next page. Yours should be all on the same page. So here we have for A, y is equal to 1/2 x plus 3. And for B, we have y is equal to -3/4 x plus 2. So what we're going to do to graph these, we start at the y-intercept, and then we use slope, like we did in the last lesson, to plot the next point. So, how does that work? Well, here our y-intercept equals 3, and our slope equals 1/2. So, if y-intercept equals 3, that means when x equals 0, y equals 3. And this is a positive slope, so we know we're going up. So we're going to, it's equal to rise over run, right? So the top, the 1 is going up, and the bottom is going to the right. So we count up 1 over 2. And we can do that a few times, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, and then we're going to connect those. And that would be our line. You hopefully will have a ruler at home. Again, it's difficult for me to have a ruler on my iPad because it starts to make it move all over different places. So same thing over here. We look at our information from our formula. Y is equal to 2, the y-intercept. And I should actually change that to say y-intercept for you guys. Similarly here, the y-intercept equals 2, and I get that from there. And the slope equals negative 3/4. So notice the slope is negative, so that means when I'm counting my y's, I'm going to go down and to the right. So let's plot our first one. It's when x equals 0, y is 2. So instead of going up, we go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and we go over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can do that a couple times. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and again, connect those. Ooh, that one's nice and straight. Like I said, I hope you have a ruler at home and we'll make it handy. Okay, so that's how you do it. The information is in that graph and or in that equation, and all you do is use that information, write it out. It's helpful to make little lists like we did here of what we know so that you can kind of sort it out. I'm always a big fan of making lists of what you know because it helps you kind of organize your information. Okay, so let's keep going. Writing the equation of a linear function given its graph. So here's going the opposite direction. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the graph and we're going to figure out what the slope and the y-intercept is and use that to write the equation. So looking at this graph here, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the y-intercept. And what I note is that the y-intercept is negative 4. Okay, so the y-intercept equals negative 4. I can also figure out my slope. If I find 2 points on the line, I can use them to figure out my slope. So I have my 1 point here, which is 0, negative 4. And I note it also goes through over here. It also goes through here. So it doesn't matter which one of those we use. So let's use this point here. That is negative 2, negative 1. Now using those, I can figure out my slope. But because my slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We did that in the last lesson. So if I say this is point 1, my y2 is negative 4, and it is minus a negative 1. And from the second point, for my x values, I have 0 minus a negative 2. And I'll get negative 4 minus a negative 1, which is the same as plus a positive, right? So negative 4 minus, or plus 1 is negative 3. And on the bottom, I also have a minus a negative. So 0 plus 2 is 2. I'll write that in blue. So that's our slope. So from this, and I'm just going to scroll her up a little bit. I have both pieces of information. If y is equal to mx plus b, y is equal to, I have my m here, so negative 3 over 2x, and I have my y-intercept here, minus 4. And that is my equation. I can do the same thing with this other one. So taking a look here, my y-intercept, where x equals 0, my y-intercept equals negative 3. And I'm going to look for another point. This one right here works. So my slope, and instead of doing the 2 points, I'm just going to count them and figure it out. My rise is 1, 2, and my run is 1. So I went up 2 and over 1, so my slope is 2. So from that, I have all the information I need. So y is equal to mx plus b, and I know my m is 2, so 2x, and my b is negative 3, and that would be my answer. And I always like it when you do these questions if you put a nice little box around the answer so that the teacher can find it when they're marking. It's all about me. Okay. Now, sometimes we are given information and we are asked to find a different piece of information. So here we're looking at determining the y-intercept. So it wants to know, what is the y-intercept of a graph if the slope is 3, so m is 3, and it goes through a point 4, 5. Now, we can take what we know and put it into that, the basic y equals mx plus b form of a line, the slope-intercept form. So if we have y is equal to mx plus b, it wants to know what the y-intercept is. So that means we're looking for b. We know m and we know a point. Now remember, this point is the same as x, y. So we're going to use that for our substitution. So when we substitute this in, my y value from that point is 5. My slope is 3. My x from that point is 4 plus b. And b is what we're looking for. So now all I have to do is multiply and rearrange that formula to find b. So 5 is equal to, well, 3 times 4 is 12 plus b. Now to find b, I'm going to move the 12 over to the other side. So when I do that, I subtract. So it'll be 5 minus 12, which will be negative 7. So that tells me that my y-intercept is 0, negative 7. Because remember, the y-intercept happens when x equals 0. If I wanted to write the equation of the line out, I have my value for slope, which is m, 3x, and minus 7. So I have this piece of information and this. It's asked just for the y-intercept, so this would be okay. But if it asked us to write the complete equation, we could do that now as well. So if you want to try the next one and then see if you get it right, then pause and then come back when you're done. So pause now, and you're back. Okay, so in this one here, it says the slope is negative 2 over 3. That's given here, and it goes through the point 3, 3. Okay, and we want to find the y-intercept. So I take what I know. Y is equal to mx plus b. So let's substitute in. Oops, I got to do some substituting. So my y value would be 3. My slope is negative 2/3. My x is 3 plus b. Now let's do this multiplication. Remember, this is like a 3 over 1, so we're multiplying our fractions there. So we get negative 6 over 3 plus b. So 3 is equal to negative 2 plus b. We move that negative 2 over, and I get 5 equals b. So my y-intercept is 0, 5. And if you want to put that in a nice little box. Again, you now have enough information to write that equation if you wanted to. So you could do that as well. Okay. Alrighty, one more page. Well, in your book anyways. Okay. Expressing equations in slope-intercept form. So sometimes you're given the equation in a different arrangement, but we want it in the form y is equal to mx plus b. So all we're going to do is going to rearrange so that we have y on one side and we have our mx plus b on the other side. So this is just using your skills to rearrange equations. So here we have 2x plus y equals 8. So we want to get y by itself. So we're going to move that 2x to the other side. We do that by subtracting 2x from each side. So we get minus 2x plus 8. And if we wanted to think about what does that tell us, that the slope is -2 and the y-intercept is 8. But it didn't ask us for that. So all we did there is we just rearranged the equation. That one's pretty straightforward. It's one operation to get us where we need it to be. This next one's a little more complicated. Again, we're trying to get y by itself and everything else on the other side. So what we're going to do, we have x plus 4y equals 12. We're going to subtract x from both sides. So we get 4y is equal to -x plus 12. Then we have to get rid of this 4. So we're going to divide everything by 4 because we want to get y by itself. When we do that, we get -1/4 x plus 3. So now from that, we know our slope is -1/4 and our y-intercept is 3. Okay, continuing on. And each one of these is a little different situation, but the basic principle is that we're trying to get y by itself. Now, here, we've got y over here. We want to get it by itself, so we're going to subtract 9 from both sides. So I'll get -3x minus 9 equals y. And now you're saying, but miss, we have y by itself, but it's on the wrong side. Well, we'll just flip this, okay? There's no problem in flipping sides. As long as we don't change what is on those sides, we can flip them to the opposite direction. So we can go y is equal to -3x minus 9. So our slope is -3, and our y-intercept is -9. So it's important for us to know that it doesn't matter which side the y is on, we can flip them to get them into the form we need. As long as we're not changing anything, we're okay. Okay, let's do this one. We want to get y by itself. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move 2y over. Or am I? No, I'm not. I'm going to move the other ones. I'm going to -4x, and I'm going to add 10 to both sides. Yeah, because then I keep my y positive. So when I do that, I have -4x plus 10. Now I can divide out that 2. Okay, I get y is equal to -2x plus 5. Okay, my m is -2, and my b is 5. Okay, so it's just that rearranging. Sometimes there's 2 steps, sometimes there's 3. Just follow those operations that we've learned in terms of rearranging equations. Now, we can also use the equation of a linear function to solve a problem. So here's a problem that we're going to take a look at. A student council sponsored a dance. Ticket cost $5 and the cost for the DJ was $300. Write an equation for the profit P dollars on the sale of tickets. So profit is going to be, if we say that the tickets are T, right? They cost $5 and the cost for the DJ was $300. So we know we're going to make $5 per ticket, but we also know that we have already paid out $300. So we have to take that into consideration, that the DJ cost us $300. Now, next question says, suppose 123 people bought tickets. So T equals 123. What was the profit? So we're going to just substitute in T and figure out what P is. So P is equal to 5T minus 300. We substitute in 123 for T. So 5 times 123 is 615 minus 300, which is equal to 315. So in this case, the profit, woohoo, is $315. Okay, now here's a different way to approach this. Suppose the profit was $350. How many people bought tickets? So in this case, we don't know the number of tickets, and we're going to rearrange to solve. So we substitute in 350 into our equation. So we have P is equal to 5T minus 300. You'll note I like to write the equation out first. I always do. 350 is their profit, equals 5t minus 300. And we're going to solve. So we're going to move that 300 over to the other side by adding. So we'll get 650 equals 5t. And then we're going to divide both sides by 5. So we get 130 equals t. So that means that 130 people bought tickets. Okay. Now, could the profit be exactly 146? Justify your answer. So what we have to do is we're going to be testing to see if that would work. So P equals 146. So P is equal to 5t minus 300. We put in our 146 here. Minus 300. We rearrange, move the 300 over. You get 446 equals 5t. Now here, if we divide, we don't get a perfect number, a whole number. We get 446 divided by 5. We get a decimal. We get 89.2 equals t. So that means no, because you can't sell part of a ticket, right? You can only sell by $5 increments. Okay, so you can't sell part of a ticket. It's all or nothing. Okay, so we just have to kind of use our knowledge of equations to kind of know exactly what's going on and thinking about what these numbers mean. All right, well, hopefully that made sense for you. If there's anything that didn't make sense, please email me or your teacher, or go back and rewatch. That's the beauty of a video. Our homework for this, page 349, 1 ACE, 3 ACE, 5 ACE, 6 ACE, 7, 8, 9, etc., and the challenge there. And it doesn't hurt also to read through that chapter textbook section, just to kind of see if there's any more information there.